Welcome to Friday's Monarchy Live as we head into our first weekend at level 2. Can't say that I'm not excited about having a little bit more freedom. I'm sure you've had some freedom already, even though it's under still some conditions. Pretty excited about today's Monarchy Live chat because we're going to talk to one of, how do I describe this bloke? Young, smart, savvy, and he and his siblings have built probably one of the best businesses around. It's not about the business, it's about the business models and what they have done with it and what they are going to do with it. Try and get this guy tied down is the hardest thing in the world. If you have never tried to rope a steer, that's what it's like trying to tie this guy down. Finally got him. Thank you, Monty. Beat them. I'll give you the props on that one. Nick Mowbray from Zuru joins us right now. Hello, mate.
Hey, mate. How are you?
Well, here's the funny thing. You grew up in Tokeroa. I grew up in Putaruru.
Close. Neighbours. Tokeroa was better, though.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't. But it was born on the back of the Kinleaf Mill, as you would remember.
Well, my dad worked there, so that's why we were there. We had a farm that backed onto the Kinleaf Mill. So I used to smell that mill every day. Yeah, my brother worked there in the school holidays and once got crushed. He's okay between the big paper rolls. Yeah, wow, yeah.
Hey,
worked on those roles.
Mate, thanks for giving us your time. I know you're ridiculously busy. Can I first and foremost say thank you? I wrote a post on LinkedIn thanking you and some other key New Zealanders for basically getting off their asses and saying, if New Zealand are going to get ahead of this curve and flatten it, we need all the right PPE gear. And you guys, knowing with your contacts in China and other New Zealand's leading New Zealanders got together. So can I say thanks and what drove you to do it?
Yeah, I guess like from my perspective, we were a little bit, I guess lucky is not quite the right word, but we had a bit of a front row seat up in China as to what was happening there, being based sort of up there. And then we also have an office in Italy that was in the red zone when the virus first hit in Italy. So we got a front row seat there as well. So I was pretty vocal on us shutting down the border early so we could get ahead of it early and get to the stage essentially that we're at, I guess, now. And I think our government reacted well. And then clearly from that stage, I was thinking, well, we're in a unique position. Governments don't just suddenly, when the whole world is competing for PPE gear, they're not going to necessarily have the ability to go and vet hundreds of suppliers in a matter of weeks or days like we could. So we just put together about 50 of our sourcing team and got out and started vetting suppliers and putting deposits down and just securing as much as we could. So I think we're shipping over 100 million bits of PPE. Have shipped and are shipping at the moment. So yeah, and then obviously we had a conversation with the Prime Minister, which is sort of early on in the piece, and she was saying that they didn't want to shut down the country because of our most vulnerable people and how they'll be exposed. So I got off that call and I thought, well, let's try and help out with that as well. And that's when we started the Salvation Army Food Bank drive. I think we raised more money, or about 60% of the money they've raised in their total history over those couple of weeks. I think we raised about 2.6 million or so. Through that, and obviously Zuru matched it dollar for dollar throughout. So yeah, so we just sort of pushed a few initiatives.
Can I ask what it's like to be a businessman that can have, and what it's like to have access to a Prime Minister like that? I'm sure it's not just, or maybe it is for you to pick up the phone and say, Prime Minister, hello, but what's it like to have that access and have a feeling that you have a Prime Minister that understands and gets it?
Yeah, she listens, which is great, right? I think that's one of her great traits, is that she really does actually listen and engage and take things on board, which I think is fantastic. I can't necessarily just pick up the phone to her, I wouldn't say, but yeah, it's good to have conversations and share some of the color on the situation that we were seeing firsthand. So yeah.
Okay, let's put everything in context. The first time I heard of Nick Mowbray and Zuru was when you guys bought the Crisco mansion up in Coatesville. I'm going, who are these people? Who are these people? Where does the Zuru story start? Does it start in Tokeroa?
It basically does start in Tokeroa. Well, more or less, right? We moved from Tokeroa up to Cambridge when we were kids, so my parents could send us to school up there. And then yeah, it started with my brother actually. He was designing just a model. People have probably heard the story before, but designed a model hot air balloon when he was at school, 12 years old, won the New Zealand Science Fair. It was like a kit set. And then he'd wrote me in. I was a bit younger, 5 years younger. He wrote me in as sort of the slave labor and would make these kit sets and they would sell them door to door and at festivals and the Hot Air Balloon Festival and Waikato, which we now sponsor all these years later. And we'd sell these, we'd knock on doors. I'd backpack around to my school holidays when I was sort of 15, 16 with a bunch of mates and knock on doors and go to little toy stores and try and sell these balloons. And then I left uni and Matt left uni as well. And he went down and set up we still have a farm down in Tokoroa. So he took over one of the old barns and I think it was like a clay floor, and we put this fiberglass mat from the Kinleith mill. Actually, we put the fiberglass roll mat on the floor because so we couldn't afford to use anything else, and had a little production line in there. And I was still sort of at uni, and in my summer holidays, I'd go and sort of produce these balloons with Matt, and we started selling them to stores at that point. Then we were just sitting there in the garage near the barn where we made them. We were lying on the floor after making like 1,000 balloons. But we had this one big customer in Australia called Australian Geographic. I think they're out of business now. But it used to be the most exciting day when we get an order for 1,000 hot air balloons, but also the most daunting because then we had to actually make them.
Just the two of you.
Yeah. And then Simon as well, my cousin. But then Matt said, why don't we move to China to try and like make these things? And at the time I was sort of going into second year uni, but I didn't actually end up making it into second year law at Vic in Wellington. My marks weren't high enough. And so I was like, oh yeah, well, I didn't make it in, let's go. So we got on a plane, moved to China. It's been well told, right? We slept out in the bushes outside Hong Kong airport on the first night, got destroyed by mosquitoes, and went to a little place called Shampoo in the middle of basically nowhere in China. Rented this apartment on the 8th floor. There was no lift. And it was like $20-25 a month, I think, in rent. Like it was a shithole. And then we like sort of found this little tin shed in China, like basically like a garage, and like welded our first, Simon, my cousin, welded our first production line up, and we bought an injection molding machine with half of the money my parents had given us. And yeah, we went from there. That was like the first steps. Now we have about 54 acres of building space in China, which is hard to put into perspective, not land, but actually building. We have about 8,000 employees now, and the scale is pretty massive. But half of all that factory space is automated as well, and it's growing every year. So we're just building another one right now, which is about 50,000 square meters in space for our consumer goods business. It just keeps sort of growing, really.
Those early days of the working on the barn, so to speak, what did that teach you? Because it seems to me it made the sense of automation was the key.
Well, I don't think we were thinking that so much when we were in the barn making our hot air balloons, but like at that stage we were like, let's go to China because it'll be cheaper and we won't have to actually make them ourselves. We knew so little though. We were so naive. Like you don't even understand how naive we were. I think like our second and third products, we got sued for them both. And I always sort of tell the story of I was looking online, and I think Matt was looking online, and that was cool. We sort of found a couple of toy products. One was this night frisbee, and one was this like money gobbler. It was this money bank, and you fed the coins into the mouth of this animal, and it went down the stomach. Anyway, we copied both of them like outright. No idea what IP was, and I sort of, it was expensive at that stage to go anywhere. So I was like, I'm off to New York Toy Fair, and I managed to get this distributor called Schilling on board in the US, and I'd sold them these two products, and I was going onto their booth at New York Toy Fair to sell these two products to any retailers that kind of came on. But within like the first, I don't know, it was like 2 hours, I think, this guy comes screaming onto the booth and like screaming and yelling at our distributor, Dave, telling him, that this frisbee he's got on his booth is a complete knockoff of his product and it breaches 5 patents, and like didn't realize there's a whole company called Night Eyes out of Colorado. Their whole business was for 20 years making this product that we copied. So they made me take that off the booth, but I was like, it's okay, I can still sell the money gobbler. Silver lining. But if I thought the first guy was crazy, then this lady in the afternoon like came onto the booth, and her whole business was making these wooden animal money banks. She had a booth downstairs, so she came on. She was absolutely nuts. And so Dave made me take that off the booth as well, all within the first day. So I'd gone to New York with our first two products that were designed, tooled, were all ready to manufacture. And they both, we couldn't sell either of them. So we ended up with like, I think 2 lawsuits, and me going back to China, going, shit, that's, we need to learn what this IP thing is, and also how to maybe come up with some of our own ideas. So yeah, I mean, there were so many lessons in the early days. We were really naive.
But they say that real entrepreneurs learn from their mistakes, right? And you guys obviously did. So how did you figure out on making? I mean, the game changer, it would appear, would be bunch of balloons.
No, people think bunch of balloons is the game changer. It's not even our biggest business. It's just probably the most high-profile product from an innovation standpoint. But I mean, early on, we had big hits. I signed David Beckham when I was about, I think, 21, 22, and I did this huge deal with Walmart which was like kind of like our first big break. And then I managed to sign this product called ZBs, which was huge. I think we sold like 10 or 11 million of them. I was really young, and that kind of helped us get into retailers around the world. And then we had a number of other sort of smallish hits after that. Schnooks was one. And then sort of we had our first big hit was RoboFish. And RoboFish, I think, won 5 Toy of the Year awards. This is probably 10 years ago now, or 9 years ago. And I think RoboFish took us to like over 100 million in revenue. And then that really opened it up for us around the world. And that was sort of that was our first like major hit that kind of like got us going in a big way.
Yeah, so I've got this thing. I've got here, like, Joe has just texted me. I'll show it to you. 2 lawsuits, no products, but a truckload of learnings. You didn't stop. That's what I can't understand. What was driving you all the way through? I mean, you probably lost a chunk of money to settle lawsuits. You got to restart and rethink, reset how you do it. When someone's looking at you going, well, it sounds easy because you're cool now. How does someone like me do it? How does a small business reset so quickly and drive themselves?
I think literally if you get knocked down 7 times, you just got to keep getting up, because if you're persistent for an extended period of time, it's hard. It's always going to be hard. But eventually you get to the top of the mountaintop and you kind of work out how everything kind of clicks together and it becomes relatively easy. I know that's maybe difficult to understand, but it is. It's hard for so many years, and you just keep getting knocked down and you keep getting up, and you get knocked down and you keep getting up. I mean, I remember we got sued for that night frisbee, and I was flying to Colorado because that's where the lawsuit was, trying to find lawyers to represent us. And we had like $20,000 in the bank. And these law firms were all telling us it'll cost us $1 million to defend, or $1.5 million to defend. And we're sitting there going, we have to defend this lawsuit. We've got no money. We need to ship this product, because if we don't ship this product, we're going to have below zero money. And so I remember, you just got to find a way. I remember finding a lawyer called Chad. He later got disbarred because he was so bad. But he decided literally convinced him that we were going to win this lawsuit, and that, you know, his damages would be paid, and we could pay him like, I think it was like 20 grand or something. It was basically everything we had. And we would write the lawsuit. We would learn to become our own lawyers. So like we would study everything. We'd write our whole case basically, and basically learn to become our own lawyers. And then we just needed Chad to basically submit it with his name on it. Anyway, we got through that suit and settled, and he ended up getting disbarred for everything that he went through helping us. But the point is that somehow you got to find a way. And if you always find a way, it gets easier and easier, and you get a little bit smarter and a little bit more clued up on how to do things. And yeah, and eventually you get to the top of the mountain and you start to understand how everything works, and you start having a few wins, and a few wins leads to a few bigger wins, and a few bigger wins leads to a few bigger wins after that. And I can honestly say we didn't know how to design a toy that sold for 7 years. We'd design a product, and I would hustle and sell it to as many retailers around the world as we could. And we'd never get reorders from those retailers because the product would never really sell very well. And then we'd design another one and do that process again. And we were so lean and living on like $1 or $2 a day that we were actually quite profitable. So we were building a profitable business without ever having a successful product, because we could kind of sell to enough new customers each time, or the existing ones that we could make believe in us again, are just a new product that wasn't very good. So we learned over that time even to how to create products that could become successful. I mean, we were bad. Like you don't understand how bad we were at what we did. We were horrible.
They say friends and family should never work together, but you, Matt, and Anna seem to gel. What's the formula here?
Yeah, Matt's like obviously a bit of an engineering genius, and Anna sort of runs all the operational side and like a lot of the staff side, and then I just talk a lot. You know, it seems to work.
Yeah. Well, are you full of bullshit?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, right? You have to be.
Yeah, because I got a question here about how do you get those connections? You know, you said earlier in the piece, you go, you know, you get David Beckham on board. Then you're trying to connect with Walmart. How does one, as a, you know, we always play this card, don't we? How does a young Kiwi go and do all this? How did you go and do all that?
You know, I was like, you know, when I was young, I was knocking on doors. So I always used to share the story of me and one of my best friends, Browners. We call him Browners as a nickname, and we'd sell these hot air balloons, and you have to go knock on, like, you know, a random person's door and try and sell them basically a flying plastic bag. I mean, it's not easy, right? Like, but we were young kids, and I always thought that I was like a better salesman when I like knocked on the door and talked to the person and like convinced them to buy a product. But there was not one day where I outsold my friend Browners, because he just didn't care about rejection. He'd knock on like 5 doors for every one that I knocked on, right? Because I'd have to build myself up again for the rejection that I'd probably 90% chance I was going to get rejected. But he would just come out of every house being rejected and laughing and like straight to the next one. And every day he outsold me. Every single day he'd sell more hot air balloons than me. And every day I'd think, but I'm better than him. I'm better at selling than he is. But he'd do better than me. And it's amazing through that process of actually doing door-to-door selling, you actually learn to deal with all different people and like work at their level, you know, wherever it is, and adapt to them. You don't know if it's going to be, you know, a 70-year-old lady that opens the door or a guy from like whatever you did. Like you have to adapt, right, to everyone. So I think that like early on, that ability to take rejection and learn how to adapt to different people was probably the most valuable thing I ever did. And then, you know, when it came to actually selling retailers, I was like relentless. Like I would email them and message them and phone them every single day. I remember Walmart. I rang that guy. It was 1 a.m. China time, because I was in China, kind of like because of the time zones. And I would ring him up to 1 a.m. every single night. This guy, and I never forget their names, right? Ryan Hoffman. This is 15 years ago. And I'd ring this guy at Walmart every single day, over and over again. I remember my brother telling me to give up. And then one day I just got hold of him and he was like, hello, I'm dealing you up to sales, like with this young company. We've got this one product, I think we had 2 products at that stage. And in the end, he was like, well, you know what? Like, do you have a showroom in Hong Kong? And at the stage, I had no idea what a showroom in Hong Kong meant. I was like, a showroom in Hong Kong? I was like, yeah, we have a showroom in Hong Kong. Of course we have a showroom. I'll send you the address. So I get off the phone and I'm like, shit, showroom in Hong Kong. So I'm bloody looking at toy companies in Hong Kong. I sort of realized that they were all kind of in this one area in what's called Tim Sha Tsui. So I get on a train, I go to Hong Kong, and I start knocking on all these showroom doors in Hong Kong and basically asking these companies, hey, do you mind if I like can give your showroom address to Walmart? I'll bring the Walmart buyer in, and you know, that could be good for you. It could be good for me. If I sell something, I'll pay you a commission. But like every single one of them said no to me, no. So then I was like, shit, okay, I need a showroom. I really need it fast as well, like in the next like 48 hours. So I found this building in this area, and it had these like little, like it had on the first floor mezzanine, it had these little like glass cubicle showrooms, and they were like tiny little rooms, like they were enough to fit a table in. And I was like, perfect, this is perfect. So I found out how to get one of these, and they told me the rent of it. And the rent was like, because Hong Kong's extortionate, it was like $3,000 a month. And I was like, fuck, $3,000. We don't have $3,000. I was like, what do I do? And then I thought, there's no choice. This is Walmart. So we rented this little tiny like cubicle, and I like borrowed some shelves that someone else was throwing out, and I put them in there, and I got this table, and I went and bought a roll-up mattress because I lived in there as well, under the table. So I had the table, but there's no real room. And so I rolled out the mattress under the table. I had this little fridge hidden at the end for like drinks for my customers coming in. And I'd sleep under that table every night. And then there was a public bathroom that I would wash in, but they had security in the building. And the security could see me on cameras, like living in there. And every morning they'd come up when I go into the bathroom to try and have a wash. And they'd come in on me. And I'd like pretend I was just sort of like in the bathroom. And I remember like the second or third meeting I ever got was with Kmart Australia. And I'd convince them like just like 100 emails to come to the showroom, but we got the time wrong. And so they thought the meeting was at 9. I thought the meeting was at 10, and I'd like slept in. So she was knocking on the door, and I was asleep under the bloody table in my like boxes. And I could see, because these rooms were like glass and they had curtains on the inside. So I could see her feet about a meter from my head under the door, and she's knocking on the door. I was like, what do I do? It's like my third ever customer. I really want to see them. And so I just had to stay like dead silent and like wait for her to go, and then message her saying, hey, you didn't turn up for that 10 a.m. meeting. I'm like waiting for you at 10 a.m. Like, there are like dozens of stories like that. I used to crash. I remember I'd like identify buyers or have them pointed out. And I remember one time there was this guy from Dick's Sporting Goods, and I knew it was the buyer from Australia. From the US, the biggest sporting goods chain. And I identified them at dinner, and the buyer was there with, I don't know, about 15 other people at dinner out on this terrace in Hong Kong. And knew it was a buyer because someone had pointed it out to me. So I went up to my showroom where I also lived, got one of those like black trash bags, put like a couple of our products in it, and I went down and I crashed their dinner, which didn't go down too well. We never sold them either. But then I'd like find even like buyers' hotel rooms, and I'd like post some letters under their doors and like leave samples outside of their like hotel rooms, all sorts of stuff.
Do you think this is what, in a way, this is how you built resilience for rejection, but also built your own brand of, you're not going to get away from me? Pretty
much. I always realized that if you approach things in the right way, you can always, you know, I'd message people. I remember I sold a container of the night frisbee before we got into a lawsuit, before I went to that toy show, to Kohl's department stores in America. So 700 stores are like a clothing sort of department retail. They have a small toy department. I never forget all the first buyers for some reason. They like seared into my memory. But her name was Jen Sarah. And I used to email her every single day about our night frisbee. Like, I was relentless. And eventually she sent me an email back and she said, can you please stop and refrain from emailing me, all in capitals, every single day? I do not have time for your emails daily. And I'd always write back, hey, Jen, I am so sorry to email you again. Like, I really apologize for like pestering you, but this product is like the best thing you've ever done. And then I'd just go into a spiel about the product again. I was like, can you send a sample? In the end, I just got this one-line email back. Like weeks later, it just said send sample, like nothing else. So I sent a sample to her. And in the end, just to shut us up, she basically ordered a container of them, like 20,000 frisbees, which is the biggest order we've ever had. We've never had a full container of them. And so she ordered it without even having a meeting with us. But then we got into the lawsuit, and then she also got sued. So it was probably the worst decision she made as a retailer, being the first retailer to buy that product. So yeah, it's just, I don't know, you just got to keep going, right? And keep finding a way and keep kind of applying some level of like EQ to how you write to people, so you're not like pushing them in the wrong way.
What drives you?
I think it's different what drove me then and what drives me now. I think what drove me then was this notion of like, I don't know, just like wanting to build something and be successful. So I wanted to be successful back then. And it's funny, right? Once you become really, really, really successful, like you have different motivators. So now for me, it's become more competitive. Like I love the idea, you know, we're building these 24 different consumer brands and we're taking on Unilever and P&G. And I know Procter & Gamble at CEO level down is already talking about us coming in and disrupting them in different categories. And I think like that whole idea of cracking the challenge of disrupting a category or an industry or a market is a lot of fun. Like I don't have to do it. There's no reason for me to do it, but I think that's awesome. And the other thing is like building cool teams. It's pretty amazing what we've built globally. We have 23 offices around the world. Like I said, 8,000 staff. That's really cool. But we've done that all from Asia. And so it's been really kind of neat coming back to New Zealand and finding all of this insane talent back here. Like we're building an office of just superstars and kind of passing on, not all my learnings, but you know, I can make people avoid a lot of pain just by like sharing a lot of knowledge, right, with how we've done it and the things to stop. And then I'm taking all of this talent that's was going to become lawyers, was going to become investment bankers. We're going to go work at Goldman Sachs. We're going to go and like do all of these things. And a lot of them, their talent would have been wasted, not wasted, but in a sense wasted. Their talent is so much more scalable on a global level than just working in a New Zealand investment bank or a New Zealand law firm. So that's been probably one of the most exciting things for me is taking all of these young kids, and they're all like average age, early 20s, and like almost like amplifying their talent, right? To have far greater impact.
Why is scale so important to you?
Yeah, scale is everything, right? If you want to build a big business, you know, I take our diaper business just 24 months ago, it was doing zero, and this year we'll ship about 2.5 to 3 billion diapers. 24 months later. So we always think about scale. I always think about playing in the big part of the sandpit. I don't want to play in like a niche. We want to find an edge in a category where we can, one, make it relevant. You know, the fact that millennials, Gen Zs are consuming brands and advertising now in totally different ways. They're demanding new things from brands. They're demanding sustainability pillars, authenticity, you know, purpose, transparency, all of these key things. So you've got a changing consumer on one hand that's demanding new things from products and brands, and you've got a new way of reaching them with data and targeted advertising. So the world's actually seeing some like major shifts and transformations in terms of how you can actually go on and disrupt established categories now as well.
Yeah, I was reading an article, and you said you're creating data-driven brands, brands driven by purpose.
Brands driven by purpose, exactly. So we're looking at sort of big, established, tired, stodgy categories that have been done the same way year in, year out for like, 30, 40 years. And we're saying, how do we reinvigorate that category? How do we make something that's truly relevant to that new consumer? And how do we reach that consumer and create a community or an image that they want to be part of? We want to create almost, this whole community that people are desperate to be part of as well.
I got a question here for you. It's off subject, but on subject. It says, what's the process of setting up factories in China? Do you own the factories, or do you just rent the land?
Yeah, so a lot of the buildings we just rent. So we rent the whole sites and factories, and then we run and operate everything. We outsource about half of our production, and then we have 4 of our own factories. That would cover about 54 acres that we operate ourselves.
Is it true that you don't have much debt or any debt at all in the company? I was reading that you guys said, no, we're not going to get into that. We'll create wealth from within.
Yeah, I mean, we've never borrowed a cent, never gone to a bank, never had outside loans. We just built the company. You know what? We did that David Beckham deal when I was really young, and I remember we made quite a bit of money through it. And then afterwards, we got like a little bit lazy, and like we had a month where we lost, I think it was like $200,000 or something. And we couldn't believe it. We were like, holy shit, we lost money. Because even earlier before that, when we didn't even create products that sold, we were still profitable because we would like literally spend nothing. And when I mean nothing, I mean we spent nothing. We moved out of that apartment. We lived in the factory for years after that. So, and like we ate like noodles every day, right? Like every day. It's like not a cliche. Like we celebrated Christmas at McDonald's the first 2 years. So either McDonald's, which is I think a Big Mac combo is like $3 Kiwi in China. Like that was a treat. And I remember having my brother and we'd be like, Merry Christmas, bro. We'd be like, Merry Christmas, bro. And like we'd have our Big Mac and like that was a treat. So like when I say we spent nothing, right? And so yeah, we basically had that month we lost money and we turned around and we said, that's never gonna happen again. We're gonna make sure that every day, every month, every quarter, every year, you know, we're gonna be profitable. And we made that conscious decision to like just become profitable. And that was like 14 years ago. And then every month since, the company's just become more and more and more profitable. Now we're like the third most profitable toy company in the world. And yeah, we've never gone to a bank ever.
How does that feel?
I don't know. I just think that people, when they think they want to be an entrepreneur, oftentimes people want to take shortcuts. They want to go and like pretend they're the entrepreneur before they're the entrepreneur. They want to go out and like, you know, raise all this money and equity, and they spend so much time like on that side of the business and shareholders and this and that and board meetings, and it's kind of like you're pretending, right? Like I've never had a board meeting, not once. We have like 24 different companies and verticals and industries we're in, and we've never had a board meeting. Like all of that stuff. Maybe that's not the way for everyone, but my point is that a lot of people have this notion that, you know, let's go raise a whole heap of money, and then they don't spend every cent as though it's the last because it's someone else's money. And you know, like I'm a big believer in like do the hard yards, like work out a way to make a business profitable, because ultimately that's the purpose of building a business. It's to like make profit, and obviously hopefully do good things for people and staff and community and those types of things as well. But you know, that's what building a business is about. And I see all these US companies, and it's sort of this US culture of like, you know, start a company and then go and raise hundreds of millions of dollars at some outrageous valuation, and the business never ever makes profit, right? With a view to exiting it. And I'm like just such a believer that it's not the right way to like build a really successful company.
Yeah, but I suppose the question you could be telling everybody is, why not do it like us? Because it works. But there's a hell of a lot of sacrifice, personal sacrifice that goes into it.
So much sacrifice. And that's the thing, right? Everyone sees the flip side of that, which is the success, and they think, oh, that like how you whatever, they're lucky they got successful. But actually, if you knew that, well, you're hearing some of the full story, right? It's completely different from anything that anyone else has like probably had to go through from a sacrifice standpoint. So that's what I say to people. It's hard. Like, if it was easy, everyone would do it, but it's hard for a really long period of time. But if you're relatively smart and you're willing to sacrifice and you're willing to put in the hard work, you learn all the time and you continually get better and you continually improve. And like I say, you get to the top of the mountain and then you go, oh, this is actually not so hard. And you get to that point where you suddenly see the light.
I'm going to ask you this question. I've got more questions coming. Don't worry, we're going to talk about Zuru Edge and Zuru Tech shortly. I just want to ask you about mentors. Did you ever have a mentor? The way you have gone about your business, was that learnt purely by experience, or did you take some advice and go, yeah, I'll take that, but I'm still going to go that way?
I can honestly say I never really got advice because we were up in China and Asia and there's no one really you could turn to, right? I remember getting some advice from a guy called Francis Choi, who was the wealthiest guy in the toy industry at the time, built these huge factories in China, one of Hong Kong's wealthiest people as well. And he said, don't attempt to do what you're doing coming into China and building a whole company out of here. That was the only advice I got, and we did the opposite. And I never really got advice. And we had so many hard lessons. Like I like the amount of advice I can give people now, so they avoid all those. I think, wow, that would be kind of good to get that advice back then. But I think that naivety also served us well, because probably we would have given up if we weren't so naive and so confident in our own abilities to eventually get there. And that's not to say we went through dips and highs and dips, right? We went through lots of dips where we were losing a lot of confidence and losing a lot of, there's a thought process there for like, often we're like, man, this is like, are we going to actually be able to achieve this?
You sound like a never say never sort of guy. So here's a question for you. Are you open up to talking to a new startup in the baby range?
We're definitely in the baby business.
Well, there you go. Well, there you go, Helen. There's the answer to your question. Let's talk about Zuru Edge, because this is your consumer product. You've got Rascals, your diaper business, which is going gangbusters. But the one that is hogging the headlines right now. My wife's a hairdresser. I haven't told her about this yet. I don't think I want to. But Monday, you want me to. Monday Shampoo. How the hell has this gone off like it has gone off?
Yeah, it's been, and I've been involved in a lot of successful product launches. I think this year in North America, we had 3 number ones in 3 different toy categories. So we have I'm used to like launching quite a lot of successful products, but Monday has been like a whole other like stratosphere almost. Within a matter of days and weeks, it's gone to the number 1 selling hair care brand in supermarkets across Australia and New Zealand, and it's been on the front page of news.com.au. I think it was above Kim Jong-un goes missing. And the headline was "Frenzy over $10 shampoo."
Win.
And then like Daily Mail picked it up. Shoppers are flooding for this new shampoo. And then like Monday is the new liquid gold. I mean, there's dozens of headlines, media picking it up everywhere. I know they were just 5 minutes ago before we started this call, George was on Good Morning, morning show in Australia talking about it and the phenomenon that it is. And, it's come in and it's beaten all the Procter & Gamble's brands, like L'Oreal, like Unilever, in a matter of days. And so like really, again, it was this, setting out with this notion, and Jamie is really the genius behind it, my partner, is setting out with this notion of how do we create, one, a community and image people want to be part of, but let's forget everything you know about supermarket hair care. How do we create a product so good and so relevant to new age audiences? And how do we create something that whispers when everything else on the shelf is trying to scream, right? And create something so aesthetically beautiful, but also with all those key relevant pillars. So it's made with recycled materials and has no parabens, free, no silicons, all of those kind of key things that matter, but make a product that truly works. So it's as good as a bottle of Kerastase or Kevin Murphy, but you can pick it up for $8. So making luxury and premium really accessible. We want everyone to be able to have that like salon experience, I guess.
Yeah, but okay, so you're dealing with you're obviously hit the nail on the head, but you're dealing with a product that is it's like buying a piece of art in many ways, right? Because women, particularly women and men, love their hair. How did Jamie figure on the formula?
It's red.
It's the first time I've actually seen it. Oh well, hey, you got to have a ginger somewhere in the family, okay? Let's just suck that one. Let's suck that one up. But how does Jamie come across a formula? And the formula is the key to making a good shampoo.
Yeah, so we actually built a whole chemical and engineering lab up in Asia. So when we do things, we don't do it by half. Like
no.
if I was to show, but that's nothing. Like if I was to show some of the factories we design and build, where we build stuff that is like kind of mind-boggling to see, and all automated, all robots, everything putting it together. We design all the PCBs, all the software. So building a chemical lab for a shampoo brand is actually pretty easy on our books. So yeah, we basically built a whole chemical lab and hired all the right people and just set off to like, we set that challenge, I guess, at the start, forget everything you know about supermarket shampoo, and then we just went out to like solve it really. And so we solved it in the formula and made something that's truly like incredible, right? And that's also, I say it's all about creating product is king, make an amazing product, make a sticky, drive trial to it, create a community, and then it kind of snowballs from there. And the marketing job on it has been phenomenal. Like they brought in Georgia Fowler as the face of the brand, and then all of these leading tastemakers below that who are called Monday Muses. So Maggie Merrill is a sustainability muse, reflects the sustainability pillars in Monday. Beck Wobworth is the minimalist muse, and she reflects the minimalist kind of attributes of Monday. Kristen Fisher is the beauty muse, and like there's all these Monday muses who are leading tastemakers in their own fields, and created like a slate of content with them all, and then partnered up with Vogue to elevate the brand. Harper's Bazaar has just done something on it today, and so really elevating the brand, but then making it really, really accessible to everyone.
You talk like build a factory, build a this, do that, automation. Like it's something everybody can do every day. I mean, basing yourself in China. Here's a question you've probably been asked. Why not base some of this? Why not build a factory in New Zealand, regardless of being automated?
We are producing here now as well. So we launched Health by Habit, which is taking pretty big market share down here in New Zealand, our supplement line. Again, we found the pain points of the consumer, so we made it all a dispenser on the top, so you don't have to take the lid off your supplements, using recycled plastic again in the containers. And we're manufacturing that all down here in New Zealand. We're just launching our Dose & Co brand. We're already launched here in New Zealand, but we're scaling that up all around the world. And there'll be a major announcement on who the celebrity partner is on that at some point. But we're manufacturing that here, Australia, and in the US. So we are bringing manufacturing on certain definitely consumable products like food products and Dose & Co that you're consuming. We're manufacturing that here locally.
Do you feel a responsibility now that you've got, and let's be blunt, like you've driven in the last few weeks, and the more I read about it, you are driving this company's image, right? Do you feel now a responsibility? Here's the ethical question of giving something back to New Zealand in a greater way in the sense of jobs and business. So now you've just told me that, but do you feel a responsibility because you're a Kiwi?
I felt that when I came home. So I moved home just under 2 years ago for a health reason. And the idea was that I was going to rest and recuperate. And that lasted about a week.
2 seconds.
I was like, this sucks. And so that's when I started the consumer goods side. I didn't realize at that stage, toys is like the ultimate university because we are developing hundreds of new items and hundreds of all different materials, all different manufacturing forms, scaling it up, and then kids get sick of it 6 months later, and you're doing the next we're just developing so many things. And I was always like, well, wouldn't mind creating a consumer good that you don't have to change every day like you change your underwear, right? So that's when I experimented with that. What I didn't know is I was thinking maybe I can start getting some young New Zealand talent and teaching them everything I know and getting them more heavily involved. And I guess over these last 2 years, that's been the most surprising thing for me is just the level of talent in New Zealand and how we can amplify that. So yeah, my idea is to build a 21st century Procter & Gamble from New Zealand with a lot of New Zealand talent. So we've already hired, in the last however long, 50 odd people. We'll scale it to probably 250 people in the next 12 to 24 months here in New Zealand, and then just keep scaling from there. So I want to build what we did with Zuru around the world and build a part of that back here in New Zealand as well as up in China. So
I read a really interesting article the other day, Nick, and it said New Zealand now has an opportunity to become a tech leader because of where we're based. Okay, so let's take the COVID-19 thing in a global pandemic situation, that we can actually benefit as a nation out of this by changing the way we think about business. Do you like that idea of us becoming a Silicon Valley sort of thing?
I don't think it makes any difference to us becoming a tech leader per se. I think any country can become a tech leader, more or less, right? Just the fact that we're, our position down here in New Zealand. I think tech is a very important part of New Zealand GDP, and particularly things like high tech, right? Because I think tech is classified as, high tech, just tech manufacturing and lots of other things, right? But if you're doing tech software like Silicon Valley, then certainly, right? And there's, companies that are coming out of New Zealand that have done well, right? Like the likes of PushPay and likes of Zero, of course. Can we do more of those? Yes. Should we set our ambitions higher? Yes. Are we too localized in our thinking? Yes.
Yes.
Often people don't realize their abilities until given the right confidence to be able to go out there and actually try and achieve it. And that's, I don't know how to explain it properly, but most people think they're not worthy or good enough, right, to go and take on the world. But actually what you find is that most people don't know much about too much. Look at Donald Trump, right? He's president of America, he knows nothing about anything. And so it's true, right? You just have to have a certain level of confidence, a certain level of confidence to go out and work out how you win in the world, how you find the white space, how you can go out and convince people, how you can create precedent here in New Zealand, create something really successful in New Zealand that's scalable, and then work out how you create that perfect case study here in New Zealand and then go out to the world and sell it, right? Persevere, work a way out to find a way of getting into other markets. And just, it's not even when I started the nappy brand with a friend, people were saying nappies, it's dominated by Procter & Gamble and Kimberly-Clark. Both of them run, one of them's Pampers is 11 billion US in turnover, one of them's 9 billion US in turnover. They've got a full duopoly in the rest of the world. What are you, crazy, going in and trying to take on these guys? If you have confidence that you can work out how to do it, often that's all you need, right, to start on the journey. And once you start on the journey, you kind of just work it out as you go.
The budget yesterday said that the government wants to build 8,000 houses, and this is where we come in the last part of this chat to Zuru Tech, fully automated, I'm assuming prefab housing.
Yeah. So
wow. What's next?
It's our biggest project by far. It's our one where we say, how do we like truly change the world? And this is my brother. He's like a genius. He's like Elon Musk level. And he was, like we actually started this like 13 years ago, almost the same time as a toy company, or at least he did. And the vision at that time was, are we going to look back in 100 years from now and look at how we build buildings and construct things and think, wow, that was so stupid. Like we really built like that. We really designed everything uniquely all around the world. And so we've built, it's like the world's leading architectural software. You can design any house in it, any building. You can stage furniture, change surfaces, fittings, like any finish in the world. And then the factory from start to finish builds everything with robots on production lines. So in surfaces, you can do any one of a million different surface finishes. We actually print. It's printed, and we can print textures and stuff on like walls. And everything is just then shipped. Most of our building is actually air, and it all just goes together on site. Add a little bit of concrete in a few places. Everything, lights, fittings, everything is finished on like production lines. We'll be able to build for about a tenth the cost as you can build today. So right now we've built like the software's incredible, and eventually you'll be able to type into our platform 2-bedroom house, and you'll be able to look at 2 million 2-bedroom houses people have designed all around the world. You'll be able to reread reviews about all of those houses, and you'll be able to buy that design of the person who designed it if you want to. And then the factory will literally make it overnight, and it'll be shipped to you, and then it can assemble really, really quickly as well. So the greatest thing about this is, we'll be able to build for a fraction of the cost. So right now we've built a 1/5 scale factory. So whatever you put into the software, the factory builds that house in 1/5 scale, because we're working out all the millions of problems. We're filing over 1,000 patents. And then we're in the process now of building the full-size factory. So the first production line is 2 kilometers long. So it'll be eventually the biggest factory in the world.
This is bonkers.
Yeah, it is
absolutely bonkers. I mean, you could change the building industry, dare I say it, for the good, but also for the worse, because we don't necessarily. Well, we still need builders, will we?
Yeah, like people that assemble them together.
So basically, you're going to be the Lego in real world terms.
Basically, and right now we do it like so. In our toy production, if you look at something like an X-Shot dart blaster, we're second to Nerf globally. We produce about 40 million dart blasters a year, and they're complicated. So they have like 50 or 60 parts, and we make them from plastic granules to finished product in packaging, in master cartons, with almost no people, about 2 or 3 people on a line. They're completely automated. So it puts everything together with robots. So imagine a house, but on a much bigger scale, making like a product, but with robots. So we build all our own AGVs, self-driving vehicles. Like I can't show you videos in here, obviously, but if I shared them, you saw them, like everything. The factory is beyond Industry 4.0. So the factory learns as well. The more data, the more builds it does. The software learns, the more designs that are put into it as well. So it's pretty incredible what they're doing.
So going forward, you're a great believer in AI.
Yeah, AI is massive. AI and machine learning is in everything we do. Even now in our products, we're building a food product right now. And I was looking at the AI and machine learning behind it the other day for quality. And so basically, it's this food product, and we want to look for any defects. So you teach the machine basically what all the defects look like, and you feed all this data into it. And then over time, the more data that gets fed in, it learns, and obviously it can be a million times over better at finding any defects in a human. And so we create like AI machine learning processes around a lot of our products now as well. So not just, and also a bunch of balloons, for example, the QC and QA on a bunch of balloons, and a defect in a balloon is all done with AI and machine learning. But yeah, on a much bigger scale, what we're doing with, imagine designing a house in our software. None of you can see the software right now, but it's incredible. It learns because so many people are designing buildings in that software that it can basically start giving you suggestions in front of you, much like when you type a word and it gives you the suggestion of the word in front of you that you're typing. Imagine that when you're building a house. So a 9-year-old will be able to build a house on the software. It's built on a 3D gaming engine, whereas a lot of the old architectural software is built on, old like platforms. And they can't really change them because they're entrenched with so many people using them over however many years. We've come in fresh and using a gaming engine to build it.
Okay, so if you're sitting here, Nick, how old are you, by the way, Nick?
34.
Oh, you're sicking me. That's just not fair. That's not fair. That's not. Yeah, look, if you're a young business person here listening to Nick Mowbray, and they still aren't sure about what business their business is doing or where they're going to go in business, what would be the? I'll give you two chances or two options. What are the two options a piece of advice you'd give them to go and get out there and do it like you have done?
I would say just start. Starting's number one. Don't keep thinking of ideas, because ultimately everyone can think of an idea. I would say start. But when you start, try and find that white space. Where is it? What is it? What's your edge? What's going to allow you to win right in that space? And so really go and study your competitors, study, the size of the market. A lot of people go into things that they think are completely different, but they end up being so nichey that often it's not a good space to be in. And sometimes also you can be too innovative. So often it's about what I call soft innovation, not hard innovation. Soft innovation is easier to communicate to people, whereas hard innovation costs a lot to market and communicate and get it across to people. So often just finding a combination of little soft innovations in an existing category that can allow you to be better than everyone else allows you to win an already established market and to communicate that to a lot of people quickly. So even in our early days, we found that doing hard innovation, whereas it seemed really cool, we were like, wow, that's amazing, because we really knew what it did. When we came to actually communicating that to the mass market, they didn't understand. So I would say start, understand the size of your market, understand, whether you're using hard innovation, soft innovation to find or exploit that white space. And then just go and get going, more or less.
Of all the products you have produced to date, when you go to bed at night and you close your eyes, what is that one product you go, damn, we got that right? Gee, that was a good one.
Do you know what? There are some that you get right and aren't as big a commercial success, where you just truly think, oh my goodness, that is amazing. One right now in the US and we got the idea from New Zealand, which is crazy. And it shows that ideas come from anywhere. But it's right now we've had 700 million TikTok videos. That's right, 700 million TikTok videos. Try and get your head around that on it in the last 1 year. And we launched mini brands, which, remember the New World little miniatures of the big consumer brands? Well, most of the rest of the world have never seen that. And you know how big it was down here in New Zealand. So we took that to the rest of the world. And it's now, I think it's the number one or number two volume driving toy in the whole of the US as we speak at the moment. And on TikTok, it's gone mad. TikTok listed it as their 6th biggest trend of the year. And so I don't know, that's kind of a right one. But then there are ones you think you get right. So we launched Bunch of Balloons Party, which is the ability to fill, tie, string, and ribbon 40 party balloons. So with air. So not like the water versions, but with air in 40 seconds. It seems amazing, right? Rather than blowing up 40 balloons, they're all tied, strung, ribbon, all done 40 seconds, 40 of them. And I thought this was going to be a huge success, but the market just wasn't big enough. So it's a success, but it's so much smaller than we ever imagined. We built the whole factory and automation to build and invested tens of millions. And it hasn't been the resounding commercial success that Bunch of Balloons Water has been. So I don't know, if you say, what did we get perfectly right? I mean, it's hard to go past something like Bunch of Balloons in terms of pure execution. From an innovation standpoint and a problem-solving standpoint, but I guess there are so many across it. I
mean, I've just spent the last 45 minutes talking to you, and I'm blown away. It's almost 50 minutes, Nick, and I got to say thanks. You remind me of a young Richard Branson, having read Richard Branson's book, who just basically gave the fingers to everybody and said, this is the way we're going to do it, and if you don't like it, well, follow us, because this is the ride we're going along for. You are quite simply a young inspiration to this old head and many, many people around the world, because I love the one term, and I think it resonates with a lot of people, and it should resonate with New Zealanders. Think global. I think global is something that's so cool.
Bigger than you think you can think. Have that confidence to think just a little bit bigger, because if you can do that, and especially in this environment, and if you can actually back yourself, because if you don't back yourself, no one else is going to, right? So at the end of the day, just back yourself to learn and get better at things. And then eventually you suddenly find yourself there and you're like, actually, I'm not so bad at this. You might think you're really bad at the beginning, which we also did for many years, but yeah, you just have to start on that journey as well. And the younger you can start, the better.
You did all right for my boyfriend Tokoro, didn't you, mate? Thanks so much for giving us the time. I know you're busy.
Imagine what would have happened if I was born in Bataura. Could have been even better.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I did okay, mate. Thanks so much for your time, and stay safe, pal.
Cheers, thanks, Evan.
Oh, mate, that's amazing. There you go. Nick Mowbray from Zuru Edge, Zuru Tech. What more? Think bigger than you think you can be. I love this one line. I think this was the kicker line for me. How do we make a product whisper where everything else is screaming? I trust that you certainly enjoyed listening to and seeing Nick Mowbray in action. My, that's just blowing me away. He's not a young Richard Branson. He's simply a young, because he's only 35, Nick Mowbray. Well, that's us for Manaki this week. We're probably going to change our times next week, but we'll let you know about that. But have a safe and enjoyable weekend. Remember, level 2 still has restrictions, okay? But go and enjoy yourself. Stay safe, be happy, and don't be a dick. See ya.